Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Within Warzone, already we've seen a few meta updates go out, mainly to address some more broken things like the, insta-kill MTZ Interceptor or the Bas-B that was dominating it quite literally every single range in the game, or obviously the snake shots, which were breaking the close range meta. We've also seen a few other more minor meta adjustments to, change a few other weapons, but we know for a fact we're going to see some more significant meta updates here in the relatively near future, especially as we approach Season 1 Reloaded in mid-January. Being that it's a seasonal update, a major title update, we know for a fact that's going to include a meta update in it, and likely a bunch of changes. Sledgehammer's already confirmed that on their end, they're already looking to do some very fine-tuning with Season 1 Reloaded and changing very specific things to balance out the meta more, and Raven is likely going to follow suit within the Warzone meta in specific. It's also quite possible that we see some other surprise meta updates go out in the days that the devs are returning from their holiday break, just because as it stands right now in game, there are still a few standout options in terms of meta weapons, and today I wanted to sort of preview and break down what to expect with our next major meta update and weapons that are probably going to be in the focus point of any potential weapon changes, buffs and nerfs for various different reasons. Some of these things we already have confirmed, some are more based on analytics and data, of course. As we get further on into the discussion, if you enjoy the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It's always really appreciated and it does help the channel grow. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee that every single day you are on top of everything you need to know about Call of Duty, whether it's news, updates, meta breakdowns, patch notes, I got you covered. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. So initially here, just based off of sort of collected data, what weapons still stand out in current ways that they maybe shouldn't, and what you obviously still see a ton of in game in terms of pick rate and usage, the Bas-B. Even though this was already obviously nerfed once for its close range and its long range, it's still an incredibly viable option, and I think it's much more balanced now for long range. It's certainly a really good choice there. It does have a bit more recoil than a lot of the other MW3 options, so it's a little bit of a higher skill gap weapon for, 50, 60, 70, 80 meter fights. But where I think this still is a bit of a problem is like the sniper support in close range areas. Even though they did nerf it for these specific types of engagements, it's still much better than the vast majority of options in the game for the close range. So it kind of negates being able to use things like SMGs for sniper supports or any other weapon that's not maybe the Ram 7, that's its only true comp there in that sort of mid-range area or close to mid-range area. So the Bas-B for, mid-range and sniper support style play probably needs to be nerfed yet again to really balance it out and bring other options into the meta. So that's definitely one I still have my eye on. If you haven't leveled that one up yet, you might want to get that done and max it out so you don't have to deal with it if they do end up nerfing it there. And then also side by side with the Bas-B, even though it has also been nerfed, the MTZ Interceptor is still pretty ridiculous for higher skill players. It's not as broken as it was, that's for sure. You definitely don't see it spammed on every single loadout from every player in a lobby, but it's still like a 3 to 5 shot kill for the vast majority of players. Keep in mind, to get a 3-shot kill, you need to hit at least 2 headshots and then like an upper body shot, which really is not practical for the majority of players, but it's definitely still possible. And then it's a consistent 4-shot kill. Otherwise, if you're just hitting, upper body shots and upper torso shots in general, which is very dominant, especially over longer ranges if you're a very accurate player. So that one also likely still needs to be adjusted there and bring it back a little bit more in line. Obviously, certain weapons should have good upsides, especially if they're more difficult to use. In this case, though, it's still just a little bit too easy. That entry barrier is not all that much for a weapon that has huge upsides in potential fights. One that's sort of risen in popularity recently for the close range is actually the Core 45 conversion kit. This is a bit of a surprise one. Obviously, akimbo pistols is usually what's pretty broken for close range, but in this case, the Core 45 conversion basically makes this like a burst pistol. It fires once when you shoot and then fires again when you release the trigger or you release your mouse, right? So it's a 2-shot burst pistol, and this basically makes it so that it has a ridiculous time to kill up close. That's better than all the SMGs. The shotguns even have some problems problems if you're missing 1 or 2 shots or the other person is just able to spam the core 45. So this is definitely a problem for the close range. Luckily, the fact that it's a pistol probably deters a lot of players from using it to begin with, but there's no denying this thing is a problem, and in the right hands does kind of ruin the close range meta. This is one that I feel like absolutely does cause some issues here, and I think the easiest way to nerf it is just that if you do the conversion kit, it does hurt the damage a decent amount, so you're getting like twice the fire rate but maybe half the damage. That obviously balanced it out quite a bit there, and just make it so that you don't have to spam as many shots to get that true TTK that probably the base core would be closer to. But that one, if you haven't used it yet, you might want to get on that because it's definitely pretty crazy for the close range. A weapon that to me absolutely needs a buff because it's just so strange how far away it is from everything else is the MCW. For the most part, a lot of the MW3 rifles are pretty competitive. The Ram 7 definitely stands out the most, but like the Holger, the SVA, they're all pretty solid and pretty consistent, even the burst rifles as well. And then you have the MCW, which is just so much worse in terms of time to kill than every other rifle. It's honestly even worse than a lot of the MW2 guns. That's a gun that I feel like is one of their main focuses in terms of popularity. I mean, it's the ACR, it's an icon, and it's just not really usable in the meta right now. So for one of the more popular guns to be that far away from the rest of the competition, I feel like that one's absolutely due for a buff. But while these previous ones, all the things that we just talked about here, are more so speculatory and based off of just like pick rate, usage, and how dominant they are, the rest of the changes here we actually already have confirmed from Sledgehammer and from Raven for future meta updates that likely are going to start here with our next major meta update. This includes the start of the MW2 balancing, or MW2 overhaul, if you want to refer to it as that. We've actually already discussed this in full detail in a separate video, so I would highly recommend going and checking that out if you want all the in-depth stuff. But basically, the devs did say in a call that I was a part of a few weeks back prior to the launch of season 1 that when it comes to MW2 guns, they're well aware of the behavioral differences, where MW2 guns do have much worse visual recoil and visual noise, and they're not nearly as easy to use as MW3 guns, and that's something they want to sort of attack throughout the seasons and make it so that they're a lot more similar in behavior to MW3 guns, being low recoil and a lot easier to use. So it's very possible that we start to see those changes take place right away with our next meta update. Then they sort of continue to do that all throughout the future seasons as well, just sort of fine-tuning that here and there where needed. Another guaranteed update that we have, or a couple of guaranteed updates that we have, are fixes for the currently vaulted attachments in the game. And this really only applies to 2 attachments, but it was definitely needed. The first of which is the snake shot ammo, obviously, on the tiers, the akimbo snake shots. They were breaking the close range meta, as we are well aware, so they just simply disabled the snake shot ammo type there. You couldn't use that in a game. You can still put it on your loadouts, but it doesn't actually function in a public match of Warzone. So they're obviously going to fix that and balance it in a way that it's not one-shotting, or I guess technically 2-shotting enemies up close because of the akimbo tiers, but they're going to balance these snake shots in an upcoming meta update here so that we can actually use the ammo type. It's just not going to be crazy broken. I got a feeling that they're going to balance it in a way that just makes it not worth it to use the snake shot ammo, but of course we're going to have to wait and see. Then right alongside that, the Maelstrom dual trigger for the Lockwood 300 from MW2, obviously that was one-shotting out to 10 meters, which was not intended, so they completely disabled the dual trigger just like they did the snake shot ammo. You can still put it on your loadout, but it doesn't actually function in game. I imagine for this they're probably just going to adjust it back to how it was towards the end of Warzone 2, where it's still one-shots, but it's only like a 3 or 4 meter range, which is far more balanced and definitely more realistic in terms of how it should actually function in the meta, so that it's not a game-breaking option there. So a couple of fixes for those vaulted options are guaranteed as well. Obviously they took them out, they're going to bring them back into the game, so pretty much straightforward there for those. That being said, that's like the broad overview of what to expect with our next meta update. As we start to see any more, fine-tuned details, more specifics, you guys know I'll have you covered, and if there's any surprise updates or official patch notes, we'll be covering those right as they happen. So stay tuned for that alongside everything else going on in COD by, of course, hitting that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.